Coming up on this week's podcast, there's fireworks in the last 5 minutes at Villa Park. Tottenham and Manchester United's chances of the top four finish go up in flames, whilst Newcastle put on a sparkling display at West Ham. Sheffield United and Bournemouth rocket up the Premier League table. Pete tests our knowledge with another teaser, and we look at the action from the EFL. I have some more stats in the Wonders of White, and there's no Rich this week, so Liam is in as co-host. As always, if you like what you hear, remember to subscribe on YouTube or follow us on our social media accounts. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to episode 11 of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here, and no Rich this week, so Liam is co-hosting. Hello, Liam.
Hi Chris, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you very much.
Good. And I'm assuming that you've watched a lot of football this weekend.
I've seen quite a bit, yeah. Some of it I wasn't overall thrilled with, but a lot of positives for me until injury time.
So obviously, as some of you may be aware, obviously Liam joined us a few episodes ago. He's a Villa fan. We actually got you on at the wrong time because actually ever since you were on, I don't think you'd actually lost a game until this weekend. So we got you on the wrong weekend.
I think Dean Smith listened to my critiques last time I was on, and we seem to put a decent run together. But...
Yeah, well, we do get a lot of that on here. A lot of managers and players, I think, listen to this and get pumped up by what we are saying.
They know
anyway, we'll go straight in with Pete's teaser. And what have you got for us this week, Pete?
In the current Premier League, in the correct order, who are the three longest-serving managers?
Well, that's a good one, Pete. That's a good one.
Tricky.
3 longest-serving Premier League managers. Might be a bit difficult, but I think I can name at least one.
I think one's pretty simple.
Two.
They
just change so often now. It's just so hard to. I'm just not surprised Lampard will be in the top.
By the end of the year, mate, you never know.
Yeah. So we will we'll go into the Premier League review now. Sorry, Liam, we are going to start at Villa Park for the Villa-Liverpool game, and obviously I'm assuming you've probably got a lot to say on this. But just before you start, I thought it was a pretty even game, I think, and Villa had. They didn't just have, obviously they did score the opening goal, but they did more than enough chances, I thought. And there was a debatable offside for Liverpool with Firmino, but obviously the thing is with VAR now, if you're offside, you're offside. I don't think there's a lot you can really say about that. But what did you think about Villa on the whole, Liam?
To be fair, I was quite pleased with how we played for a majority of the game, but it's that same thing coming back to Costas again. We don't go and get that second goal and kill the game off. Like you said, we had a few chances, but it was one of those where for once we weren't necessarily just sitting back and throwing as many men behind the ball as possible. We actually did look to try and kill the game off, which is a bit promising. We don't have that. I don't think we have that 20-goal-a-year striker up front at the minute, which is a bit frustrating. But
he's at Chelsea this season.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, he was on loan to us last year, and unfortunately had to go back. But I never had the feeling that we were going to hold on. I always thought that Liverpool were going to score, and I was just hoping that the one goal was going to be enough for them, and it was just going to be the equaliser that was going to be the late goal. But to get two of them was a bit disappointing, considering I actually defended well.
Even obviously when they spoke to the manager after the game, he did say that for 86 minutes of the game you concentrated really well, and it was just that lapse of concentration maybe on 2 occasions that have slightly cost you the win. But to be fair, Mane's header, there's not really a huge amount that can be done about that. I think it's more luck than anything. It's kind of hit him, and it's kind of gone through a few defenders. So
it was one of those soft goals that you can't fault anyone particularly. It was just a general lapse in concentration. I think we thought the chance that created the corner was a free kick from Alexander Arnold, and I think we had the mindset of once that didn't go in, that's it, we're safe. And you can't do that against Liverpool, not with Mane. And Salah had a quiet game, but when you've got players like that, that's going to make the difference over 95 minutes, not just the 90.
Yeah.
And I think that's what cost us. It was a shame. I've got a few friends that are Liverpool fans who watched the game as well. They all commented on how well Villa had done, and
definitely.
things on radio, and it's promising. We started off this season losing in a similar way to Spurs, but we held on in that game, I think, for about 65 minutes. So we've now managed to get to 87. I think maybe a little bit more fitness or something, and we'll get the whole way. But yeah.
With obviously Liverpool now, it from their point of view, it is quite a scrappy win for them, a 2-1, and it's a few times this season where they haven't played particularly well and they've won by the odd goal, but it's those sorts of performances that they'll look back on, and if they do end up winning the league, it will be those games where they kind of ground out a win that they'll look back on and think that's probably where they won the league. But
it's the performance of champions, isn't it? It was a similar game, I think, to the game they had against Sheffield United a couple of weeks ago, where it was not much in it overall, but they just got that one goal, that little bit of an edge towards the end, and just managed to take the 3 points. But it's looking difficult for the rest of the Premier League to catch up when they're winning games like that. Obviously, it will be a big game at the weekend against Man City, but when you're winning like that, it does seem like you're inevitably going to end up winning a trophy somewhere.
Definitely. So speaking of trophies, obviously last year's winners Manchester City took on, shall we say, a fragile maybe Southampton side. But obviously, a lot of people would have predicted, City, to freely score in this game, but I think you have to give a lot of credit to Southampton here. Obviously, coming off, I know they played in the League Cup against them in the week, but obviously it's still going to be in the back of their minds. Obviously, what happened last week, losing 9-0. I thought they defended really, really well, and fair play to McCarthy in goal. I think obviously they made a switch in goal. Obviously, the goalkeeper last week didn't play, but he made some important saves, which I think kept the score down a little bit. And you might say, Southampton were a little bit unlucky in this one, but all I really got from the game was that, from a Southampton point of view, I think their fans would be quite happy with that. I know they lost.
Yeah, they should be. I had Man City down to get 5 or 6 in this one, and they did defend well, Southampton, to be honest. I thought Bednarek played very well. McCarthy had a good game, like you say. I felt a bit sorry for Gunn because it wasn't really his fault that they lost 9-0 last week.
No, definitely not.
It's not for a keeper when you get taken out. I guess it's his mentality, really. Losing 9-0, you're not going to be confident. So that was probably why they did
definitely
it. It's not his ability. But yeah, I thought Southampton played really well, showed a lot of spirit. They fought for everything, which I think Southampton fans, they always appreciate. And
definitely.
It would have been easy for them to roll over and just say, we're playing Man City away. We lost 9-0 last week, so we're going to get turned over again. But they didn't, and they turned up, and I think they were unlucky not to get a draw, to be honest. I thought it was
definitely, yeah.
It's another one, a similar goal to Villa, really, in the sense that it was just a bit of a lapse in concentration that just let them in so late on. And when you're struggling at the bottom, those are the kind of results that go against you. Unfortunately, you never seem to get those last-minute winners. So they were a little bit unfortunate, but again, Man City, when you've got players like they have going forward, you always expect them to score. 1-0 isn't going to be enough.
It's frightening, isn't it? Especially when you look at, their starting 11, and then even you look at their bench as well. It's just, it's going to come up from all angles, really.
it's infuriating me every week because Aguero is sometimes on the bench and I've got him in my fantasy league team. But when you can bench probably one of the best strikers in the Premier League, certainly now, probably of all time, it just shows the strength and depth you've got.
I say, yeah, you certainly know you got depth when you can put Aguero on the bench.
Absolutely, and he's been benching Sterling as well recently, and when he's on the form that Sterling's on, it's quite hard to.
See Real Madrid have already started poking their fancy at him as well. I saw in the news this week that they're on about paying 70 mil and Gareth Bale or something like that. But I can't see City wanting to let him go. I said to Rich last week that, I think on current form he is probably up there with the best in the world at the moment. So
I think he absolutely is, and 70 million is a lot of money, but when you consider some of the other price tags going around for other players at the minute, £70 million for Sterling, even if you swap, probably isn't what he's worth.
Going to be paying a lot more than that, I would have thought. Okay, so we'll move on to the West Ham Newcastle game. What a cracking game this was! A really, really action-packed game, and for Newcastle as well. How many times can you say in the last couple of years that you've seen Newcastle free up on a team?
Not just Newcastle, a team managed by Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
I should know.
I saw on Match of the Day that they said that this is the first time in so many games that Steve Bruce has been 2 up in a game. I was sort of, blimey, it's just crazy, really. But I thought for Shelvey's free kick, I thought that the keeper probably should have got more on that. I think he should have done a bit better than that. But West Ham are so unpredictable. It's just, for some reason, when they don't show up to games, it is very, very noticeable. I know they got slightly back into it towards the end of the game, but Newcastle probably just switched off a little bit. But if you were a West Ham fan, I think you see this fixture as one that you probably should be winning.
Definitely. I think anyone in that bottom half of the table will see Newcastle at home as quite a big game to win. I think it's interesting. I was listening to 5 Live, and a West Ham fan was on there saying that their big players are what's letting them down because of the lack of consistency, and people like Felipe Anderson and Yarmolenko are obviously good players on their day, and if they turn up can win you a game, but when they're not there, it's like playing with 10 men. And I think this was a case today, at the weekend, of West Ham's big players just not turning up, really. I think you're right. The keeper should have probably saved Shelvey's free kick. I think as a goalkeeper, you get a bit of stick if the ball goes your side of the goal. And although it's gone over the wall in this case, I think he had plenty of time to get down to it. But I think it's just a case of their big players not turning up. I mean, I only watched the highlights of this one, but I don't think I heard Anderson's name once. And
no, this is
paying 40 million. You've got to be looking at a better performance.
Well, you compare it to him last season. Last season, he was by far West Ham's best player, and he scored a lot of goals from them. This season, it just doesn't seem like he's performing to the best of his ability. It's a bit like I know he's gone now, but Arnautovic, he was, when he was at West Ham, he was always kind of their key player that when he wasn't playing, you really noticed a dip in form for West Ham. But, to be fair, I don't think we can take anything away from Newcastle here. It was a really strong 3 points for them, and it was very much needed for them, and it kind of gives them a little bit of breathing space for now. Probably not for long, but
I think it should give them a little bit of confidence, because from what I've seen of Newcastle so far this season, they've not been great, but a performance like that, I think the new signing Saint Maximin, I want to say I pronounce that.
Yeah, no, that's right.
He looked exciting, lacked a little bit of end product.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. I know they were 2-3 up, but he had 2 chances where I think he got pretty much through on goal. One he took round the keeper and ended up trying to square it, but I think he probably should have just had a shot in that one. But fair play to Newcastle. A big 3 points to them, and
I think they'll give a good go of being safe this year. A lot of people are written them off because of what's happened over the summer. Bringing in Steve Bruce to replace Rafa Benitez is obviously Benitez is a big loss, but I think it's for me. I'd prefer a Premiership with them because they are such a big club with that fan base.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really hope they do stay up. Actually, I like the way that Newcastle fans are so passionate, and they do deserve better than Mike Ashley at the minute. But I hope this gives them confidence to go on a little bit of a run. Not too soon, because I think they've got Villa next.
Yeah, I was about to say, aren't you playing?
After we get the Villa game out of the way, then I do hope they put a few games together. Because I know I took the mickey out of Steve Bruce, but I did quite like him as Villa manager. He, made a few mistakes, but he got us to a playoff final. We were one step away from going up under him. So you've got to congratulate him for a good job on a small budget, really, at Villa at the time, because we had almost a transfer ban. Basically, we couldn't buy anybody, and I hope it's odd. You've got a mixture of you either play boring football that gets you a result, or you try and play entertaining football and you can end up losing 4-3, whatever. And he's very much along the lines of keep it tight at the back, and the results will come. And I think they will get there eventually.
Well, we'll wait and see. But another team currently kind of struggling. I'm not talking about Everton. I'm talking about Tottenham. I can say that he's not here, so I can say what I want about Tottenham. I could get it all in. Obviously, the Everton-Tottenham game, completely overshadowed by a horrific injury for Andre Gomez on his ankle. It was it wasn't so much the tackle. I think it was the aftermath of the tackle by Son, and I have seen today that they have rescinded his red card. So I didn't think it was a red card, but obviously when they reviewed it, the referee thought it was a red card. But possible handball from Dele Alli?
Definite handball, I think.
I say possible. I think it was definitely handball.
Yeah, he's not looking at the ball, but you can't have your arm up there, can you? And have the ball hit it and not expect that to be given as handball. I think that's the fact that they looked at it and decided not to give a penalty as well.
Very strange.
Yeah, an odd one. I don't really know the thinking behind that, but again, that's a sort of champion for bringing through a bit of communication between the officials and the people that are actually in the stand, like they have in rugby. If you can mic the referee up, it might give a bit more clarity.
But for Tottenham, obviously dropping points again, getting further and further down the table at the moment. So it's a strange one for Tottenham. I'm not really sure where they go from here. I've spoken to Rich this week, and he seems to be in the mindset of just get this season over and done with already and sort of rebuild. But it's a hard one because obviously at the start of the season, many had predicted them to be in the top 4. But it is games like this where they're not really showing up.
Yeah, I think they're similar to West Ham in a way when they're big players, and they've got a lot of big players, but when their big players don't turn up, it almost seems to cost them a man on the field. And yeah, Eriksen's been sort of in and out of the team, and Ali again has been in and out of the team. And after all the promise he was showing until about 18 months ago, he's a different player at the minute.
Yeah,
scored this weekend, but he's not been that player that came into Spurs for the first 2 years. So I think looking at their performances at the minute, there's got to be something going on in the background that a lot of the players aren't happy with.
It definitely seems that way, and we've mentioned this before, me and Rich, about their sort of big players and their contracts running out. Towards the end of this season, I think they got Eriksen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose contracts all finishing this season. Are they going to want to re-sign? It's very hard to tell at the moment. So,
I mean, if I was them, I'd be putting everything I can into my performances to see if I can get that bigger move. You have to warrant it. If they have 12 months of not playing very well, who's going to want them at the end of their contract?
Yeah, well, I think Eriksen has probably got the biggest chance of them all to. Obviously, he's been linked with Real Madrid a few times, but we'll have to wait and see. But the game itself wasn't really anything special.
Obviously, the injury was a big.
Yeah.
The whole attitude of the ground seemed to change, and I know Everton got a late win, a late equaliser, but it really didn't seem like it. I don't know whether that came across to you. It wasn't, if my team scored a 97th minute equaliser to draw against Spurs, there'd be pandemonium in the stands, and it was all very much.
Yeah, and obviously for them as well, the manager. There was a lot of talk about him in the last month or so about him, maybe leaving, but
yeah, they've had a bad start to the season. It's quite hard to put your finger on why, because they spent a lot of money. I actually thought they'd had a good transfer window, and it's hard to work out what's going on there.
Right, we'll move on to the Watford-Chelsea game. Another win for Chelsea. Obviously, it was slightly close towards the end when Ben Foster gets his head on the ball, but Kepa makes a really, really good save. It was quite an impressive header from Foster, to be fair.
Absolutely incredible. You don't get many goalkeepers going up front, but he's had more shots on target than Jesse Lingard this season. So amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? When you think that goalkeepers have more shots on target than Jesse Lingard. But in all fairness, a very impressive performance from Chelsea again, and it's the same players week in, week out that are putting those performances in. Obviously, Tammy Abraham. A lot of people at the start of the season were complaining that they weren't sure where our goals were going to come from, but I think he's done more than enough to justify his place in the team. Same with Mason Mount. He's such a good player, Mount, and it's not generally stuff that he does on the ball. It's just his movement is so good, and and also another player that did well was Kovacic. I thought he's really had I know he doesn't score many goals, but he's really impressed me this season.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good. To be fair, I thought 2-1 actually flattered Watford a little bit. I thought that Chelsea could have gone on and got a couple more at least.
Definitely, yeah.
Before the penalty, I think it could have been 4 or 5 quite comfortably. I mean, you guys look really good. I'll be interested to see what you think. Like, there's rumours the transfer ban could be lifted in January. If not, it'll be over the summer. What do you think? Like, if this is to continue, what do you think the aim will be for next year?
It's very hard to say, really, because obviously I think at the start we didn't really have any expectations this season. Obviously, with the ban, with the new manager, we didn't really know how the team was going to gel. But not a lot of people outside of support Chelsea or know Chelsea, would realise that a lot of these young players have been playing with each other for 6-7 years. We had one of the best youth teams for 5-6 years running, and it's these players now that have come through, and they're playing together, and it is really shown on the pitch that they kind of know how each other work. So
certainly with Mount and Abraham, they've got a really link up.
It's very difficult to say because do you change the system that's working for you? We've kind of this season we haven't bought anyone, we haven't made any huge signings, any marquee signings, and we're fourth in the league, 6-7 points clear of fifth and 2 points off second. So it's a strange. To be fair, if they lifted the ban in January, I don't think personally they would do too much. In the summer, I think maybe 2 or 3 players will come in. Because because you got to think as well. Rudiger, when he's back fit, he will probably come in for Tomori.
Yeah.
So I think I think one of the positions we do need to strengthen is left back. Alonso is, don't get me wrong, he's a great left back, but he does get caught out. He is quite sluggish sometimes. And I think Emerson is a good replacement, but I think maybe if they were to bring in, yes, maybe not. I'm not saying Chilwell, but maybe someone more of an attacking mind. If we could get Andy Robertson from Liverpool, that would do. But I don't know. I think for now, I think they'll stick with the system that is working. And you got to remember, we got Jody Morris as the assistant. He worked with most of the majority of these young players when they were winning trophies. So
it's a good appointment.
Yeah. So
both from Derby, I think, was a good bit of business.
Yeah. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, a good win for Chelsea. And Watford still looking for that win. It will come.
What do you think? Because I keep on every week. I keep on thinking they're going to turn it around, and
it's not, are they? I think.
What's that? 12 games without a win.
I don't necessarily think changing their manager, after 4 or 5 games of the season has particularly helped. To be honest, never ideal because you're not, as a manager, you've not really bought the players in, have you? You kind of, and you're stuck for a very long time until you can bring your type of players in. So I don't know. And he managed there before and it didn't work out. So it's very strange, very, very strange. But it will come. I think they'll get a win. But as the weeks go on, and the teams around them are winning games, it is looking harder and harder and more likely that they are going to be one of the contenders to be going down. So, So we'll move on to the Arsenal Wolves game. So if I told you that Wolves had 25 shots on goal, I think you'd call me a liar. But it's insane how many chances Wolves had in this game.
Yeah,
and I think with a bit more. With a bit more concentration in front of goal, they could have easily, walked away with this one. Arsenal's defending is just poor. They are in. I know that their league position would say otherwise, but I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Arsenal at the moment. I've seen today that Xhaka has been stripped of the captaincy. Obviously after what happened. So Arsenal for me have, defensively for the last 4 or 5 seasons have just not been any good. But credit to Wolves in this one, they really gave Arsenal a game. I know Arsenal took the lead with Aubameyang, but I think Wolves might be actually disappointed they didn't come away with more than just the point that they did get.
Yeah, I think they deserve more, definitely. They've drawn a lot of games this year, Wolves. Games that I think maybe last year they would have won. I'm not saying it's 100% down to being in Europe, but I don't know whether because they're playing that extra game a week, it's maybe causing them a little bit of tiredness. I seem to remember Wolves last year scoring quite a lot of goals late on, and this year they've drawn a lot of games, sort of 1-1 and had a few 0-0s. Obviously, a great win against Man City a couple of weeks ago, but it was an odd game. I didn't think Arsenal fans could get more split when it was Wenger in charge. But I think, if anything, they have. It seems to be very split right down the middle, 50-50 between Emery in and Emery out at the minute. And I've heard some people say Mourinho should come in to fix the defensive problems. I've even heard some Arsenal fans saying that they want Wenger back, which
it's a bit silly.
Yeah, I can't see that happen. I mean, I'd love to see that happen just because I think it would be quite funny, but it's a hard one at the moment when he's clearly got the pedigree, but he's lost something in the dressing room and he's quite quickly losing the fans.
Well, Aubameyang was their 5th different captain this season that he's tried. So I don't know whether it's
what he's doing.
What he is saying before and at halftime is just not coming out on the pitch, and they just don't have that natural leader. Maybe I'm not sure, but I think Arsenal, I think they will finish top 6. I don't think there'll be any worries, but it might be a bit harder trying to push for that Champions League spot. But all in all,
going forward, they've got to be up there.
Yeah,
come the year, I think. But it was interesting that when they were 1-0 up, Emery took Torreira off. I can't remember who he brought on now, but it was an attacking player. I think with the idea of killing the game and getting the second goal, which you can do if you're a Man City or a Liverpool, when you know you've got the defence that can carry that off. But when you're Arsenal, it just leaves you so exposed at the back that you do end up drawing these games or losing these games. I mean, we scored twice against them at the Emirates. So that shouldn't happen. Not to Arsenal. Arsenal shouldn't concede 2 goals at home. I mean, I know we still lost the game, but yeah, the defending was it's awful. But we've been saying that for so long. They've got to sort it out, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. So more, I'd say, of the surprise of this season, Sheffield United, they took on Burnley. And what a game for Sheffield United. Exceeding expectations, I would say, this season. And I think it's results like this that show the determination that their players have. But Lundstrom, the absolute heart of that midfield, he's such a good player. And obviously he's been with the club for a while now. I think he was there when they were in League One as well. I think someone said.
A lot of the players have been there from League One.
And obviously for Burnley, not a single shot on target at the weekend. I think that really summed up this game.
Yeah,
for them.
Was Chris Wood injured or suspended? I think they missed him. He was good when he played against Villa. When I saw that game, I think they would have missed him a lot.
Yeah, but Sheffield United, I think they're up to 6th or 7th now in the league. So for them, it's it's been such a good, a good season so far, and that definitely showed in the first half here that you could definitely tell which team went into the game with a lot more confidence, and like I said, that showed with the goals that they scored. Obviously, Lundstrom getting 2, and then Fleck. I think he's another one that's been there. I think since they were in League One, getting the 3rd, and it's game over by halftime for Burnley. And to be fair, you do see it a lot. Sheffield United kind of took the foot off the gas in the second half, but Burnley still didn't even come out and threaten, which is unlike a Sean Dyche team. I think they do defend well normally, and they're kind of almost like a counter-attacking team with obviously Wood in the middle, in the central. He's the sort of target man. Like you said, they missed him at the weekend. But for Sheffield United, they got Tottenham away next, so
I fancy him. I fancy him to get a result there.
Sheffield United haven't lost away from home since January, so. And you think they've probably played at least 5 games away already this season in the Premier League, so. Fair play to them.
Credit to Chris Wilder. I mean, I like I was saying about the potential replacements for Emery. He's got to be up there as one of them. I think he's done an incredible job to take League One to where they are now.
He's very tactical, isn't he? With how he sets out.
He's got that system working so well. The players obviously all know it, and I did fear the worst when they came up. They didn't really spend a lot. I know it's easy for a Villa fan to say when we spent 150 million or what, but you do start to think, well, a lot of these players have been with them since League One. Have they got enough? And yeah, definitely, absolutely, they have.
So we'll move on to the Palace-Leicester game. A game which was very close, I thought, obviously, but Jamie Vardy scoring, towards the end of the game. And he is free scoring at the moment, I think is the word to use. It was a really well taken goal as well. But we must talk about this Leicester defender. He got the goal, obviously the first goal, and I'm really going to kill his name now. I really don't want to. Soyuncu, I think I'm going to say.
Right. I think that's right. He's another one in my fantasy league team, Chris, and he's doing me a world of good.
Oh yeah, he had such a good game at the weekend, and there's been a few performances like this, and I hate to say it, but they look a better team without Harry Maguire, which is, you probably didn't think you'd say that, but defensively they really, really sharpened up. I think Rodgers has really worked on that defence. I think Leicester, and it was clear to see on Sunday that Leicester are a very good team going forward, but it's always been the kind of defence midfield where it has kind of let them down. But I think on Sunday it's similar to how they were playing when they won the. I'm not going to say they're going to win the league because it's very unlikely that they will. I'll never say never, but it's kind of these performances we're seeing week in, week out, and I think the Palace game at the weekend epitomised how far they've come with Rodgers. And Rich, I remember when Rodgers took over at Leicester, Rich wasn't a fan, but I think he's been fully converted now.
I'm with him on that, to be honest, because I thought Rodgers at Celtic, it's a job that you can't really get wrong, and he'd been there for a while, and I did think that maybe it was a bit too long to be out of the Premiership, but yeah, he has done an incredible job. I think Leicester are a very good team. I personally, at the minute, say outside of Liverpool and Man City, they are playing the best football in the league. If they finish third, I think they would absolutely deserve it. There's you mentioned Soyuncu at the back. He's been brilliant. I think obviously Vardy is a top class striker up front, has been for a long time. But I just wanted to mention Harvey Barnes because he's sort of gone under the radar a little bit. Everyone's Maddison and that for England, and there's no real mention of Barnes getting anywhere near it. But I thought he was excellent at the weekend, and he was every time I've seen him this season.
He is very impressive, and young too, which is something that Rodgers has kind of installed, and he'll learn from players around him as well. And when you're feeding goals to players like Jamie Vardy, that's going to build your confidence as well. But yeah,
Tielemans is as well, by the way.
Yeah, right. How on earth he kind of, because it's no, everyone that plays games like Football Manager will know how good this guy is as well. So how a lot of the bigger teams have he's kind of slipped under the radar, and he was really good. Leicester weren't amazing last season, but if you had to pick a few players that perform well from them throughout the season, he would be one of them. And like you said, he's almost like the key in midfield. It's him he can turn things on, when it's needed, and it, it showed with when you got someone like Vardy up front as well, is always going to help when you're feeding him. So yeah. But I was really impressed with Leicester, and I've been impressed for the whole season.
I don't think Palace actually played badly either.
No, don't get.
Yeah, it was even more impressive for Leicester to keep them out. I think
and Hodgson, even after the game, even said that the only thing that they lacked was just that final finish, because they did have a few good chances, and I think with Hodgson, he kind of knows how far he can take this Palace team. I think he knows that he's probably good enough to finish mid-table. He knows that the team he's got will very unlikely get relegated, but they're not going to be pushing for that sort of top 6, top 8 finish, if you kind of get what I mean. But
yeah, they need to stop ex-Villa strikers, because Ayew and Ben.
Yeah, although Ayew has been scoring a couple of goals, Bent, like I say this week in week out, I can't remember the last time he actually scored a goal. But
I think he still played for Villa last time he scored, I think.
Anyway, we'll move on to the Bournemouth Man United game. Not too much to talk about in this game. It was quite a scrappy sort of game, and credit to Bournemouth coming out with the victory, but Man United just taking those 2 steps back again with their performance. They look really, really sluggish when they're on the ball, when they're going forward. It's just not the Man United, and this this display that they were putting at the weekend is probably one of the worst. I know they've lost some games this season, but for me, I thought effort-wise, they had Rashford had a good chance, but I don't know what it is about them this season. I think everyone is quite shocked at obviously how bad they are performing at the moment. But credit to Bournemouth, who are playing really well. They tend to start seasons quite well, Bournemouth, but then they do tend to dip off a bit towards the end. But I think for Bournemouth, their key players, like your King, your Wilsons, they are essential for Bournemouth, that they play week in, week out, because it's them that make that team tick. Especially King. I think King's quite underrated.
Yeah, I think he's very good. He took his goal well at the weekend. It was a good finish, but I watched that goal go in, and you look back at even after Fergie with like Moyes and Van Gaal, but definitely under Alex Ferguson. You look how long that ball was in the Man United penalty area without a United player within 3 yards of it. It was amazing, and every Man United fan I've listened to have said, "Oh, we need people up front," and there's been rumours about getting Mandzukic. I don't think that solves their problem.
He's not.
Still think their defence is what's letting them down. I mean, right, they haven't scored as many as they would probably like, but you can't concede goals like that and think that going forward is your problem. It's just
well, Gary Neville hit the nail on the head. He said that Man United team needs 6-7 new players to rebuild, and he said that's going to cost you in excess of 500-600 million for the players that they're going to need.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think
a job, and I don't know whether they can give Solskjaer the time to do it. I mean, I don't know what you think. I
think he'll be gone. I think he'll be gone by the end of the season. Maybe by Christmas. They won't want it. They won't want to sack him. I think they'll bring someone in and stick him in as a coach or something. I don't think they'll get rid of him. Obviously, they got Phelan in there as the assistant. I don't know. But whoever takes that job on has got a massive job on their hands to turn that around, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the last game, which is unfortunately this week is Brighton Norwich. Brighton getting 3 points here. Another team, Norwich didn't have a single shot on target. And for Norwich, Brighton, the first half was very dull. I don't think there's going to be any question about that. But Trossard, again, you got to be careful with this name, Trossard.
Yeah.
He put in a really good second half performance. His goal was quite good as well, and he assisted the second as well. For Norwich,
they're in trouble.
They're falling deeper and deeper into the abyss now, and it's hard to believe. Like the last game that they won was against Manchester City. It's just crazy, isn't it? It's a
completely different team from that game.
It's just very strange, but they are going to struggle, and fair play to Brighton. They get the 3 points.
They've had a good start.
They're doing well.
I like the way that they've tried to go about things. I think Potter's had a good influence on the squad. I thought it was harsh for Houghton to get sacked after the good job he did, getting them promoted.
That shocked a lot of people, I think. So
yeah, but I think that he's done well taking over, and yeah, it's good to see a club like Brighton doing well in the Premier League. I hope they manage to keep it up because they do deserve it, and they are playing some good football.
Definitely. That is that's the Premier League review done. Just a quick note: there's Champions League games tonight. 2 English sides are playing. Neither of them are actually winning. Liverpool drawing 1-1 with Genk. Wijnaldum put Liverpool in front, and then Genk equalised 2 minutes before half time. Chelsea are 3-1 down at home to Ajax. I don't know what's going on here. 3-1. 2 own goals from Chelsea: Tammy Abraham and Kepa. So yeah,
well, he's still scoring, mate.
Right. Well, yeah, we've actually scored 3 goals tonight. We're losing 3-1. Anyway, we'll be back in part 2 with the EFL review. We've also got a bit on predictions. I've got some Wonders of White, and we will try and get the T's answer. So we'll be back in part 2. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. We're going to get straight into the EFL reviews, and Liam has got the Championship and League One.
Yeah, so game in the Championship last night saw West Brom go back to the top of the table. They're back in first, 2 points clear of Preston North End, Leeds United and Swansea City, who are all on 28 points. Good win for Leeds United at the weekend at home to Queen's Park Rangers. They absolutely bossed that one, to be fair. It could have been, absolute hatful there, but they ended up winning 2-0. There was another win for Preston North End as well. We were playing really good stuff at the moment. I know that Alex Neil's been... he's been rumoured to be getting the Stoke City job. Probably quite rightly so. They're playing really good football at the moment. The rest of the playoff places are at the moment with Nottingham Forest and Bristol City. So Nottingham Forest beat Luton 2-1 away at the weekend. Good win for them again. Lewis Graben on the score sheet. I think they've got a good striker there. In other results, Cardiff beat Birmingham by 4-2 in what looked like an absolute cracker. Middlesbrough, the misery is still on Middlesbrough at the moment. They're really not doing anything at the bottom. They're 22nd at the moment, which for a club like that is just to be in the drop zone in the Championship is quite a big thing. Woodgate under a lot of pressure there. So they lost 2-0 to Derby County at the weekend. Great win for Hull City away at Fulham, who won 3-0. And finally, the other game was Reading 2 and Millwall 1. So at the bottom, we still have Stoke City on 8 points. As I say, they're looking for a new manager after Nathan Jones was sacked. Barnsley are just above them on 9 points. Middlesbrough in the final place in the drop zone on 12 points. Going into League One, there's new leaders at the top of League One, albeit with one game played more than Ipswich in second, and that is Wycombe Wanderers. Wycombe won 1-0 at home to Shrewsbury over the weekend. Ipswich, I don't think Ipswich played by the looks of things. I think that's where their game in hand comes from. Peterborough played an absolute cracker at the weekend. They're currently in third. But they managed I was going to say they managed a 4-3 win, but they didn't. They lost 4-3 to Blackpool. A really entertaining game there. At the bottom, Bolton managed to pick up their second win of the season. They're now on -2 points. So still a long way for them to go, but it's good to see that they're finally getting some wins on the board. They beat Fleetwood 2-1. Southend are above them in 22nd. They lost away at Sunderland by 1-0. And the final relegation place goes to MK Dons at the moment, who lost 3-1 at home to Tranmere. I believe that AFC Wimbledon leapfrogged them this weekend as they drew 1-1 with Lincoln, so they sit just outside the drop zone with Accrington, Tranmere and Lincoln just above them. So that's the League One done. The only other results I think that I've missed were Portsmouth 1, Oxford 1, and Rochdale 1, Bristol Rovers 2. I think the rest I've covered.
Cool. So we're going to League Two. As I did say last week, how close it was in League Two. We do have another leader. Forest Green beat Cheltenham by 2-1 away. Whilst Bradford move up to second as they beat Exeter 2-0. That game actually had 3 players sent off, 1 for Bradford and 2 for Exeter. Swindon in third, they beat Walsall 2-1 and Crewe are down to fourth after a 1-0 defeat to Port Vale. Exeter 5th and Cheltenham 6th, who both lost to teams now above them. And making up the playoff places, Newport were down to 7th as they lost at home to Salford. Morecambe remain bottom despite getting a 1-0 win over Leyton Orient, and they are now level on points with Stevenage, who are just above them after they picked up a point against Scunthorpe. Moving on to the National League, so Yeovil for a short period were top of the table, but unfortunately conceded a late goal against Boreham Wood, so that game actually ended up 1-1. Obviously, it's not a defeat, so I'm sure they can take many positives from the game. So that was 1-1. And just a quick shout out to Altrincham, obviously in the FA Cup this weekend playing York. Altrincham, obviously, if you follow the podcast, are our current team in our FA Cup feature. And the game is actually on Sunday on BBC, so obviously just go and watch it. Just watch it. Okay, so we'll move on to predictions this weekend. So Rich has kindly given me the results, and I can see why, because he won this weekend. He ended up on 21 points. I had 9, and the guests were set piece shirts. They ended up on 3. This week we've got James who's taking on the challenge. So all the fixtures and the scores that people have gone for are now online. So we've got Leicester, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, which is obviously going to be a cracking game, and our FA Cup featured game, York versus Altrincham. So, Liam, to everyone's favourite part of the podcast, the wonders of white.
What have you got for me, Chris?
So, so Spurs haven't lost any of their previous 38 Premier League games when Dele Alli has scored a goal for them. So that's winning 31 and drawing 7.
Just wish he'd score more then.
Well, that's what Rich said. Rich has actually seen these. I sent them to him earlier this week. So this one, unfortunately, this next one isn't actually true anymore, because I didn't realise that West Brom were playing last night. But this was the stat. So it's Preston have ended the weekend top of the Championship for the first time since the 1st of December 2006. So kind of say they ended Sunday evening on top for the first time since 1st of December 2006. Frank Lampard is the second manager in Chelsea history to win 7 consecutive away games in all competitions, behind the great Bobby Campbell, who achieved that in 1989.
That is some great going. That is.
I've got a little continental one for you this week as well, Liam. So Real Betis have become the first team in La Liga history to keep a clean sheet in 3 consecutive La Liga away games against Real Madrid. That game ended 0-0 at the weekend.
Really good going.
So there's your stats for the week. You feel for the week. There'll be more next week. But I think your stat, the Ben Foster more shots on target than Jesse Lingard, kind of trumped those, mate. That was a really good one. I enjoyed that one. But I can't take credit for that.
Did as well.
So anyway, we will try and crack this teaser from Pete. So the current Premier League managers in order who are the 3 longest serving. So I think we both said that we knew 1.
Yeah.
Let me just double check. What was that one that you make sure we were thinking the same one?
The nailed on one for me, I think, was Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe?
Yeah.
That's the one I would have gone for.
I think you might have mentioned one that I forgot.
Dyche?
Earlier in the podcast. I was going to say Sean Dyche has got to be quite close.
Well, I would definitely say Howe, and I would say that Dyche is probably up there.
Then it gets
trying to nail on this third one, so we've got to think of. So
I'm torn between 2.
So we could.
Between Pep Guardiola and Wilder at Sheffield United, because he would have been there since League One.
So yeah.
But
so maybe Wilder is probably second. No, because how long's Dyche been at? Dyche has been at Burnley for a long, long time.
He has for a while now. It's got to be about 4 or 5 years.
Poch?
Oh yeah, that's a good shout actually. He would have been longer than Guardiola at Man City, I'm sure.
Because Poch was pre-to. I remember because I said to Richard the other day of how many trophies he's not won since he's been. I swear I said 6 years. So
I'll go with
I think
that.
he was 13, 14.
Yeah,
so
I'll go with those three.
So you think those three, right? So Poch was third.
Nice.
Dyche is second, and Howe was first. So yeah, we
Nice.
nailed that one.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I'll come back next week, Chris. We got
yeah. So yeah, I think Eddie Howe and Dyche were nailed on, but it was just trying to unlock that third one. But it was Poch. 2014 he joined, according to the internet. So successfully negotiated the teaser. So that means you're 1-0 against Pete. So it's a good record to have, Liam.
100% record. I'll take that.
So I just want to obviously thank Liam for co-hosting with me this week. Thanks, Liam, for coming on, keeping me company.
Thanks for having me.
Rich will be back next week. As far as I'm aware, he hasn't told me any different yet. But yeah, obviously, thanks for everyone for listening. Like I said before, obviously, if you do enjoy the podcast, just subscribe on YouTube, follow us on any of our social medias. But yeah, anything else, Liam? Anything you want to add before you go?
Up the Villa.
Oh God.
That's it. That's all.
That's all I've got to say. So I'll be back next week, as will Rich. But we'll see you next week.